The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Net Zero Hub on UK Construction Week. Hope you're enjoying today's content. We've got one more day to go after this, so please make sure you can tune in for the rest of today and tomorrow, and obviously all the content that we've done over this week will be available for you to go back and watch as well. So please make the best of the facility. So on to today, and I'm delighted that we're joined today by Julia from Wilmot Dixon, looking at achieving net zero and beyond. Wilmot Dixon have been in the news a lot in the last few weeks around this, and I'm delighted that today I'm joined by Julia Barrett, who's going to give us an update and tell us what Wilmot Dixon have been doing, and perhaps how we can collaborate and share and learn from her expertise. Hi, Julia, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Nathan. Good to be here.
Brilliant, and your second session today as well. So thank you for your time. So looking forward to your presentation. I'm going to ask people if they want to ask questions for you at the end. They can type them in on the box on their screen, and I can come back at the end and we can perhaps do a few live questions with you, if that's okay.
That'd be great, yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Hopefully, yeah, I'll drop my camera off.
Okay, cool. So hopefully you can see my slides now. I'm sure Nathan will tell me if I've pressed the wrong button.
Absolutely
great,
perfect.
thank you. So as Nathan says, I'm Julia Barrett, and I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for Wilmot Dixon, and it's great to be joining you this afternoon as part of UK Construction Week. For those of you who don't know us, Wilmot Dixon's a privately owned contracting and interior fit-out group working across England and Wales. And as Nathan mentioned, we launched our new sustainability strategy, Now or Never, last week on the 29th of September. Its ambitions and far-reaching targets to 2030 are, we believe, sector leading, and they will lead us to net zero and beyond for our operations. Looking back, it's clear that what we thought we knew at the beginning of the year has been turned on its head. The future is more unpredictable than ever. But one thing we do know with certainty is that we all face some very big challenges over the next decade. Now or never is our roadmap for how we tackle these challenges, provide our customers with the solutions they sorely need, and secure our ability to operate and grow in the future. It includes our targets and ambitions for both our products and our own operations. And I'd like to share some of those elements with you now. Our strategy itself is made up of two sections. Our themes, which lay out our long-term ambitions and targets. If you like, in simple terms, they're the outcomes we're driving towards. And then there's our enablers, and they're at the heart of how we do business. They reflect our values and guide the decisions we make and the way we behave. Today, I'm going to focus on elements of two of the themes and what they represent. So first of all, I'd like to talk to you about our theme of brilliant buildings. Now, the buildings we're delivering for our customers today are already brilliant in so many ways. They're well designed, they're high quality, we think they're excellent value, and we have great customer relationships on the back of them. And the new strategy is all about that, and all of us that build those buildings taking that next crucial step. So the overall aim of Brilliant Buildings is to construct and refurbish buildings fit for current and future generations in terms of the energy they use, their carbon emissions, their resilience to hotter and wetter future climates, and how healthy and comfortable the people living, working, teaching and learning in our buildings will be. The climate crisis that we all face makes it critical that in future we create brilliant buildings that are also truly sustainable for our customers, our communities, our supply chain, and ourselves. The Brilliant Buildings theme has 4 key ambitions. By the end of 2030, all our new buildings and major refurbishments will achieve net zero operational carbon. And they will also be future climate ready and optimize the health and well-being of the people living and working in them. We want to achieve this on projects where we can collaborate effectively with our customers to get there. Essentially, that means on projects where we have design responsibility at an early REBA stage. By the end of 2040, all our buildings and major refurbishments will be delivered with net zero embodied carbon, and our supply chain will achieve net zero operational carbon. Now, these 2 ambitions to 2040 really set us challenging goals to reduce the impacts of all of our construction materials and supply chain processes. And that's why we're starting on that journey now. You can see that achieving net zero carbon on our projects and processes is actually at the core of 3 of our ambitions. So let's take a look at what that actually means. Achieving net zero carbon for our buildings is all about balance. We have to make sure we can balance the energy used to run the building with the renewable energy supplied from the building itself on site or from off-site sources via the grid. The result of that balance is a net zero emission of carbon. So that means when we build for a net zero project for our customers, there are no further carbon emissions as a result of delivering that building and the customer using it. So what does that mean for our project teams when we design and build a net zero carbon building? Well, step 1 is about reducing energy usage from all the heating, lighting, and other equipment in the building. And that's crucial for 2 reasons. Reduced energy means reduced customer energy bills, and it means less energy to supply from renewable sources to make that balance. Delivering more projects to low energy building standards like, say, Passive House will be a key focus for us here. Step 2 means assessing the embodied carbon associated with all the concrete, steel, cladding and other materials in our buildings, and using new digital tools across the business to evaluate and reduce that embodied carbon with alternative designs, materials or processes. Step 3 means supplying the remaining energy we need from as much on-site renewable energy generation as possible, with the rest from renewable grid sources. And we will offer customers a new capital cost-free route to on-site solar energy on all our projects. And as you'd expect, the last and vital 4th step in the net zero carbon pathway is to measure and verify both the energy usage and the energy supply once the building is in use, to make sure that our design intent matches with how our building really performs. And our proven energy synergy process will become our standard way of ensuring that net zero is designed and built by Wilmot Dixon is verified as net zero in reality. While meeting our 3 net zero carbon ambitions is really important for our customers and the planet, our 4th Brilliant Buildings ambition is a key goal at the same time that we must achieve. We can't just create buildings that are brilliant in carbon emission terms. They also have to be designed for future climates, to a hotter and wetter climate, to be great places for people to use now and in the future. So our strategy is to create future design standards for our projects and standardized product and platform offers that prevent future overheating in the homes, offices and schools that we build, to make projects resilient to flooding and weather impacts and achieve the best possible outcomes for the health and well-being of people living, working and learning in our buildings, where a comfortable, well-ventilated and productive environment is what everybody expects and everyone experiences. The challenge now for our business is working with our customers and our supply chain partners to achieve these brilliant building ambitions within those timescales and for all of our projects. Now, the 3rd theme in our strategy is what we've called Better Planet. And this theme is much more about what we and Wilmot Dixon are doing. It's about how we construct our projects, how we travel, and how we manage our offices. And I'm just going to focus on the first ambition in Better Planet, which is to be a zero carbon company without any offsetting. Now, we're currently reliant on fossil fuels to carry out lots of our work, whether that's the diesel we put into our cars or our generators or the gas we use to heat our offices. The carbon that's released is contributing to climate change. Now, we've done well over the last 10 years. We've doubled turnover without increasing emissions, and we funded carbon offset projects overseas. So we've been carbon neutral or net zero in our operations since 2012. But the scale and urgency of this climate crisis we face means that this simply is not enough. So by 2030, we will completely break our reliance on fossil fuels. We believe this will place us as a leader. We will reduce our own carbon emissions to zero by using only renewable sources for all of our energy needs and move beyond net zero to become a truly zero carbon company. A lot of what we need to do to achieve our goals under this theme is probably familiar to you. We've been working on this for a while and we've got some good foundations to build on. So you might ask, well, what's different now? What are you changing? Well, for our projects, we're going to adopt a new efficient site setup on every project with a new cabin standard, and we will design sites to be 100% electric by finding ways to cut diesel use to zero. And we will continue to only buy natural green electricity. We'll also focus on making the right choices about how we travel for work. And we're certainly going to need this to meet our 2030 target of a 65% mileage reduction and a fully electric fleet by 2030. Delivering our ambitions will change how we work and what we deliver. We don't have all the answers yet, and we definitely won't get it right first time. That's the nature of change. But as long as we truly understand the problems, then working together with all of our people, our supply chain partners, our customers, and indeed our peers and competitors, we will find solutions. Our full strategy, because I've only given you some edited highlights, along with the full recording of the launch last week, is available on our website. And over the coming months, we'll be running a series of online events covering more detail on each of the themes. So if you'd like to discuss any more of what you've heard from me today in more detail, please get in touch with your contacts at Wilmot Dixon or drop us a line via the email address on your screen, now-or-never@wilmotdixon.co.uk. I think I've rambled on enough now, so thanks for listening, and hopefully we can get some questions going, Nathan.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Julia. Yeah, there's the first question in from Max, who says, how long has this been in development, your strategy, and what you've launched this in September?
Well, in terms of the new strategy, we actually started on the journey 2 years ago. And one of the most interesting things that was said to me, and it's obvious when you look back, isn't it? In fact, it was our sustainability committee, subset of the board. They said the journey on this, developing this strategy, is as important as the destination. And so it has proved to be. We've done a lot of talking internally. And as I say, with all the partners and peers, we had a competitors workshop. Everybody came in and said, well, we think this is good, and wouldn't it be great if? We talked to our supply chain partners, we've talked to a lot of customers. And what was brilliant by the time we got to the launch last week was that people could see their influence on it, or they could see the bit that related to them. So that would be a great piece of learning to share with anybody who's thinking of doing their own strategy, is make people part of the solution. Then they will own it. Of course, the other side of that is they can't be part of the problem. And also, recognize how far you've come already. We've had a strategy. Okay, it was looking at slightly different things. It was looking at our own impacts only for 7 years, but we've made some great strides. So part of getting people to do something new is to make it less daunting and make it more accessible, make it less scary. So all of those things played into that 2-year journey.
Yeah. So the question here from I guess one of a subcontractor, an SME. What does this mean that there'll be companies now that you might not want to work with because they don't meet your criteria, your standards?
Well, it's a 10-year journey, and we've got a lot of great supply chain partners work with us already. But that we've set them some tough ambitions as well in terms of the way their products operate, their own operations, and sharing the information about their own products. We can't evaluate the embodied carbon unless they help us to do that. But we've started working with some of our supply chain partners 3-4 years ago now. Really interesting story. We went out and said, look, we want to help you cut your carbon emissions. Who wants some free advice? Not many people came knocking at the door, but those that we did work with have saved 30% on their energy bills. So actually, this isn't about, hopefully, us telling our supply chain partners, do this or else, but actually we can help you and you can help us, and actually together we can all be winners and have sustainable businesses in the economic sense. Even if you don't believe in any of this climate change crisis, who wouldn't want a more efficient business and a greater margin on your turnover?
Exactly, it's hard to argue with that. And I mean, I'm interested to know the ambition is to have all electric vehicles as well, so all electric plant. Is that
well,
or not plant?
Well, yes, there's a slight subtlety in there. All electric vehicles, we don't actually, because being a tier 1 contractor, a lot of the kit and caboodle comes through our supply chain partners. In terms of when we talk about fleet, actually, majority of it is grey fleet. We have a few company cars. So in a way, our challenge is harder, because what we're having to do is to persuade our people when they buy a new vehicle to buy an electric vehicle. And we've got some exciting measures coming out. Our own people don't know the detail of it, so I'm not going to share it all here. But you can imagine what we want to do is to disincentivize people from traveling in the first instance. And wow, hasn't COVID provided an opportunity to demonstrate the art of the possible there? And then we want to incentivize them to make the right vehicle choices. So for a long time, we've had a green bonus, for instance, that encourages you get an additional payment if you choose a car with, less than so many grams per CO2 in terms of its specification. And you can, it doesn't take the brains of a bishop to work out that, the premium on the green bonus will be those choosing electric vehicles. So, but all of these things take time. People don't change their cars every year. So a lot of this is about signposting and explaining the why, and then supporting people through that.
Brilliant. Okay. I've got someone, it sounds like they know you. Maybe you can guess who it is. Hi, Julia. Trust you're keeping well. Delivering lower embodied carbon will need to involve building more with timber. Are you encouraging your clients to build more with timber? And are you specifically specifying more timber for your own developments? And that's from Charles.
I know exactly who that is. Thanks, Charlie. Gosh, well, you know, I'm a sustainability professional. I'm not a design manager. And you also know that there's a lot of noise in the sector. I mean, anybody tuning into this knows the whole post-Grenfell debacle and the issue on insurances. So I would be naive to say there's going to be a mandate on timber. We all know how great timber is in terms of the embodied carbon profile. But, you know, we had this, whenever I do a webinar now, I get, are you going to put this product over this product? And I think what we're saying about designs is that we need to evaluate each design. We need to do life cycle and whole life costing for each design and make sure that we get the best solution for the customer and the type of building that we're delivering. So, you know, personally, I would love to see more timber, but you know, I'm not naive that we're operating, you know, this is just one element in a whole equation of the right solution at the right time. And there's a lot to work through for our industry at the moment with all the, you know, the unfortunate circumstances there, and really understanding how we can make sure that we build the right thing in the right place with the right materials and keep people safe so that they are great, safe environments.
Brilliant. Okay, that kind of leads me on to another question that around some of the things we've talked about this week. Do you know the construction minister made some announcements on Tuesday. Obviously, Boris has made a lot of announcements this week as well around building back better, but building back green as well. Do you think this government is doing enough, or what could they do that they're not doing that they could help the likes of Wilmot Dixon?
Well, we could have a whole nother seminar just on that question, couldn't we? They're saying the right things, and frankly, they need to. We're hosting COP26 next week, and our credibility will be nil if we are not doing some industry leading, sector leading things for construction, but also beyond. There's lots the government could do. You know, there's lots been touted in the environment bill, still stuck in the parliamentary process. There's the currently the planning white paper. Don't get me started on that. I don't think that's going to solve anything. So, you know, actually there's an opportunity there to help the future home standard. Really, if what they put out there is what they're putting it, you know, proposing, that's a step backwards, not a step forwards. But I do think that, you know, there are some really good things that they can do. You know, we've got I'm going to call it the wrong thing now. Let me see if I've written it down somewhere. I'm going to say Green Deal. It's not called Green Deal. There's the
Green Home Grant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's live today. But it's limited to £2 million. You have to jump through almighty hoops to actually get hold of the money, and it only runs till March. And we know in the sector that, you know, it's all very well us focusing on new build. We have got to tackle the existing building stock if we're going to get to net zero by 2050. So there's a really easy thing they can do. Extend that scheme, give property owners and the industry certainty that it's worth them investing in business models that will support that, investing in skills and training. And of course, we've got the new skills announcements, you know, emerging as well. And construction, sustainable construction, green skills is a massive opportunity. So I think there's a really big opportunity for them there. But as a really easy one in the next budget, cut VAT on retrofit, match it to new build. For some people, that will make the difference. We need some of these little nudges and incentives. You know, it's not a big deal, given everything else that's been, we've been funding. Just let's make that signal of intent. I think that would be a massive change.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, you touched on the skills thing there. So obviously we've been internally talking about the air source heat pump, for example. I believe there's an estimate that we need 40,000 people to try and install air source heat pumps or retrofit, but we've only got 1,000, something like that. Are you doing anything in that area to sort of train up people on these new skills, basically?
Well, the theme of our strategy, I didn't really spend any time on, was our Building Live strategy, where we're trying to help those who perhaps face barriers to good careers into the workplace. And at the heart of that ambition is to have 10 people a year for 10 years, so 100 people by the end of the strategy working for us, who wouldn't even have had that on their radar. But I do think there is a massive so many things come together, aren't there? In terms of construction isn't necessarily a career of choice for a lot of people. It's not seen as a premier career. So we need to work with our recruitment colleagues on that. We need to get more women. We need to get greater diversity, and we need to make sure that we have got the right skills. And that's not all about academics, but that's I think there's a huge opportunity in terms of apprenticeships, and with all the issues around university funding and affordability and student loans, actually degree apprenticeships are growing with gathering pace, and lower level apprenticeships as well. I think that's the way to go. It gives people real experience, real skills. They're able to, in our case, get the boots dirty. But we've got to push it up. One of my co-presenters this morning said, I think we've got to retrofit, if we're going to do it enough by 2050, one property every 30 seconds. There's a job to do.
Massive job. So 2 more questions here, and that will probably bring us up to the mark. So do you agree that we must also focus on locally manufactured building materials that allow us to build to last 150 years? That's from Mike. So
absolutely. I mean, our focus on low embodied should push us that way. Our business model, we operate regionally, and 80% of what we use on a project, goods and services, is purchased within 40 miles of a site. And that's something that we have always felt very strongly about, because it's not just, in my world, about the embodied carbon, but actually it's about maintaining that local economy. So helping us, a local supply chain, again, invest in skills and labour. So I think we will see more of that. I think there's across the sector a need for greater transparency on that, because whilst and I'm probably going to use a really bad example, so everybody forgive me, but if you perhaps are buying, say, double glazing units, you may find that they come from a depot or a fabricator down the road, but where did those constituent parts come from? So I think there is a lot of transparency we need to drive there. But if you're happy to work with us, and we're working with other major contractors as well to try and continue to support our joint supply chain, because these guys work for all of us. And that's why we set up something like the Supply Chain Sustainability School, which hopefully has been featuring in other webinars. We all need to go on this journey together and get the right solutions, and I'm confident that the right solutions will be the ones that percolate to the top.
Cool. So I think you might have partly answered this one in that question. The last one, a question from Sammy. Is your aim of achieving zero carbon without offsetting simply in terms of operational carbon emissions? Will you continue to offset carbon to account for the embodied carbon from purchases of EVs, for example?
Oh, now you could have a whole webinar on EVs, couldn't you? So
Yeah.
the straight answer to the first bit of the question is being a zero carbon company in our own operations, yes, is our scope 1 and 2 and elements of scope 3 like commute travel. So if you go onto our website, you'll see what we've always claimed as our footprint. And, let me just toss another one in there. We ain't going to be saying, oh, look, we've cut our business travel because everybody's now working from home. So we don't have to count that. We will take account of that. So we're not making it easier for ourselves. But the whole piece around we want a net zero operational supply chain and net zero embodied products means that we will be working with our supply chain. So for some of those, like cement, really difficult to think how you're going to get to absolute zero carbon on that. I don't think the technology exists yet. Those will require an element of offsetting, yes.
Brilliant. Okay, well that's brought us exactly up to the half-hour mark, so I think that's probably a good place to leave it, Julia. Thank you very much. And yeah, perhaps we could look at this again in May at UK Construction Week and see how it's gone and perhaps your feedback on the next stage. But it's been really insightful, so thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All right, and yeah, well, we've got another session starting at 2 o'clock. Well, Game Changers, we're looking at net zero again there with the FMB and the Active Building Centre, and we've got another session as well all over on the Culture Change series as well. So please stay tuned this afternoon. Thanks, Julia, and yeah, we'll see you soon.